Look at this. My last YouTube film's not even done uploading, and I'm already filming another because this is like, not the Truman Show. What's the one where the guy filmed himself 24 hours a day? That was a super popular movie at the time. I don't remember what it is. Again, look at this mess. This is my actual office. I mean, if you look, there's a trash can Apple Mac sitting here. And when people come in here and they use my restroom, which is right here, they'll stop in their tracks and go, that's not really an Apple trash can Mac, is it? And I'm like, yes. I haven't used it. I don't remember the last time I used it. It's still there. My monitor stand is a cardboard box filled with film scanning stuff that I never opened, a blurb sample book from Peru, and then the monitor is kind of like precariously stuck on top of it. There is a jumble of cables and hard drives all over the place. I've got multiple brands of camera gear, some coming in, some going out. I've got journals, I've got stuff I'm working on. Good book, by the way, How High We Go in the Dark. This was a surprise. I'm not a sci-fi person, I'm not a magic reality person, but this was very interesting and my wife read it and also loved it. But one thing I'm here to show you, not this cable, here it is on my chair, just where I left it. So I'm gonna weasel this cable through here, and I'm gonna plug it into this, and then I'm gonna close this window, and I'm gonna open up something that I just photographed yesterday. I'm going to open this image and I'm going to hit print, and maybe, if I'm lucky, it works. Holy shit. Now, this was a picture of a coyote in the Valles Caldera Basin in the middle of a snowstorm while we were snowshoeing. You've seen this image in the film that I'm uploading right now, or you will see this image. It's pretty basic, but I like it because it shows, I love coyotes, number one. And two, it's a 40 megapixel Fuji X-T5 image, and it is razor sharp, gorgeous file. And I also, in the film, showed you a massive crop of that file of the same image. So going into a 40 megapixel file is fantastic because these things just look incredible. This printer, on the other hand, is a total piece of shit when it comes to printing photography. Massive banding, there's no black, there's no nothing. I don't care. Man, that's a good image. I am a wildlife master at this point. All right, so I'm gonna do another one. I'm gonna print the crop too, just for fun. I'm gonna print the crop, and then I gotta get my scissors, hang on. Oh, look at this thing. Oh, it's gorgeous. Fabu. Okay, so now I have these, there's the cropped version. Again, washed out, no black, banding. I don't care. I'm gonna cut these, trim these right along the print side. Right along inside. Now, is this an exact process? No. I've been doing this for 55 years and I've never made a single straight scissor cut in my life, no matter how hard I try, so I don't try anymore. I just cut. You see where I'm going with this, people? You see where I'm going? I'm cutting, right? Okay. Now, I got my dad's trash can under the desk. And you want to know a chilling story about my trash can? My father used this trash can for 60 years. And my job when I was in elementary school, one of my weekly chores was emptying all the trash in the house, right? Total pain in the ass job. I hated it. Even though it took like 5 minutes, I was a little tyrant, a little debutante. When he died, I got this trash can. And I didn't really look at it. I'd been emptying the trash can for decades. I didn't really look at it until I got it to New Mexico. And when I looked at it, I swear to God, I thought it had swastikas on it. And I was like, oh my God, my father was a secret Nazi. My father was a secret Nazi. But it wasn't the swastika. It was that Hindu symbol that looks like a swastika, but it's not. But that was kind of equally puzzling because my father was as far from a spiritual, Hindi kind of person that you could possibly craft with human DNA. So I'm still a bit baffled, but I am very much relieved that my father was not a secret Nazi, which I was pretty sure about in the first place. but also intrigued that he might have had a little, I don't know, spiritual side that I didn't know about. So anyway, back to the journal. Now, this is the journal. Nothing fancy, it's blank. By the way, in the film that I'm uploading right now, I mentioned a guy named Chris, and I'm putting in his letter to me. There it is. I taped it in using 3 different colors of tape, and that's how the journal opens, is his letter, and then a bunch of my writing, a bunch of my notes from the book that I'm reading now, and then a blank page, and now I'm going into this journal thing. But here's what I've learned. I used to cut, like, see this image is trimmed now, you get the coyote. I used to cut down the middle and then glue 2 pieces together. I don't do that anymore. I just put it in as one piece. It's just one piece, people. It's a heck of a lot easier. Heck of a lot easier. By the way, I'm gluing. You can't see it because of the piles of debris on my desk. I'm gluing this in. I'll still do it here anyway. Who cares? Again, you're going to have friends that are going to tell you not to do this. That they are going to be the elitist, snobby people of the world who say, oh, I'm so beneath me. It's like photographers who look down on other photographers who carry a camera on a daily basis. The people who only pick up a camera to do jobs. Most of the time, those people are kind of miserable. Take that from my personal experience of assisting for some of these folks over the years. They're not happy. So I fold it, right? I've glued it on both sides. And then I just stick it in here like so. Pretty simple. Press it down, put it on the ground, jump on it, and now it's adhered inside there. But that is just the beginning. Now I will write. See how it's all lumpy from the glue? I don't care. This is not about perfect. This is just for me. I would normally never show you this. And when I'm done with it, hold the phone, where is it? Existing journal, it would look something like that. Black and white, same printer, same images, but with writing over the top of it. Or maybe I would, I don't know, paste something else in on top of it. I'm about to cut this out. This is from the Bell Arts Museum in Argentina, in Buenos Aires. I love this little envelope, and I love their stamp, Bell Arts. So I'm gonna go in here, and I'm gonna cut this out, just this page, paste it in and write over the top of it. It's pretty simple. I also, it's behind you, you can't see it. I use Fuji Instax to glue into these journals, and that is kind of how I'm doing journals right now. Okay, remember when I said I wouldn't take a film because I didn't have any training or skill and really wasn't capable of it? Well, this is just another example. So I'm using manual focus on this, and hopefully this damn thing, even with the focus peaking highlight thingy, that looks like it's in focus, but for all I know, it's probably not. So I just showed you one of the techniques that I'm working on for the journal, and I get probably more questions about journaling than anything else, and it's simultaneously baffling and exciting because I love doing this so much. I love sharing what I'm doing and how I'm doing it. But remember, there is really no right and wrong with journaling. It's just whatever you feel like and however you feel about what it is you're doing. So I'm going to show you 3 different journals. Someone asked the other day if I have multiple journals going at the one time. Absolutely. There is no rhyme or reason for the most part. With each of these, they don't necessarily have to have a theme. They don't have to have any restrictions or parameters on them. And I think that is potentially why people find this so challenging, is that most of the things in our lives these days, they have restrictions and parameters and limits and rules and all kinds of stuff. And all of a sudden, I'm turning to you and saying, these don't exist in this environment. Maybe it's daunting for that particular reason. This is an Albania journal. The work inside of this journal, like this image, that is from Albania, right? So I've been there 3 times now. I've made a bunch of images from Albania. I've made a bunch of books from Albania. It's just sort of built into my, repertoire of things that I'm doing. Having said that, the work that is inside here, outside of the photographs, has nothing to do with Albania. So let me just walk you through a little bit of this. Arts and Crafts Day at Shifter Media. So this is a typical spread. This is an image that was shot, a multiple exposure in Albania with the Fuji XH2 40 megapixel, which by the way makes badass looking double exposures. This is in Theth up in the mountains in Albania. I made this double exposure, and then I've just simply written over the light areas. Nothing fancy. Here I've got Instax images glued in. That's from Peru. This is from Albania. I forget where the QR code goes. I honestly don't remember. Again, a lot of writing. My journals, a huge part of the journals that I do is really just about writing. It's about thoughts going on in my head, or it's about notes for a project, or notes for blurb, or whatever. I mean, I use it in every conceivable way. You'll notice here that the yellow is bleeding through. This was my attempt at bleeding through over the headlights to make it look like the headlights were on, like a warm glow from the headlights. This is a black and white multiple exposure from Tirana, which I've then taken a white gel pen and I've outlined all of the structure inside of the image. So anything with a hard line or angle or form has been outlined with a white gel pen to counter the black and white. This is also helpful when it comes to learning how to draw, because you are starting to learn how to form things with the pen. The bleed through on the headlights, I've only done one side so far. That was done with oil paint. That was done with a square of oil paint, and I love oil paint because it bleeds through the paper. And in this case, I want it to bleed through. Had I used acrylic here, it wouldn't bleed through. But the thing about oil paint is it takes forever to dry. So I've added this little thing, which was a cutout from, I think, a photo book wrapping or something that I got. And you can see there's oil paint all over the place. I've never figured out how to oil paint or use acrylics and not get it all over my hands, and then subsequently all over my pants and my clothing and my wife and my neighbor's dog and anything else. And then I've got a little New Mexico True sticker here and a little clear part of that sticks out the top. So yes. Now, again, this is spontaneous. This is an image, another multiple exposure, Ottoman Bridge. In Albania, double exposure. These three guys are swimming to my left straight down under the bridge, but I've done a multiple exposure here. I will eventually work over this entire spread. I'll use a white gel pen in the black areas. I'll use black pen in the white areas. Now, again, you can't see my face right now, but I'm making this unbelievably pained expression. Once again, trying to emphasize and stress to you that there is no right and wrong. My friends, you have total freedom to do what you want. Okay, so let's move on. This is my journal from Antarctica. Not too, dressed up at this point. I've got my birding list, which I have yet to add in any way, shape, or form, but I will at some point. I showed you this spread earlier. That's made on my crappy printer in the office, and I've just taped it in and written over it. You'll notice from Antarctica, it is a lot of written material. This is the image I made the morning we left. So this is, you can't see it because the printer sucks so bad, but this is like this really beautiful cloud formation and clouds the morning we got up to leave for Antarctica. The trip starts and I am on the clock to make things. I've got printed pieces. I've got a ton of writing. I've got starting to think about spreads for the book, and I'm only like one day into the trip and I'm already looking at book spreads. Lots of writing. Picture of me in Peru in an Antarctica journal. It doesn't matter. And so that's just me giving that little stupid heart symbol thing that people do that I find kind of hilarious, and then I did it on purpose and someone caught me. A couple of birds that I've seen in Buenos Aires down here. More potential cover mock-ups. As we keep going here, this was a picture of my Sicily work printed on this same very table that Elena Dorfman was editing before I left. My notes about penguins, Gentoo, Chinstrap, Adeli, King, Emperor, all of these like facts that I'm taking from the science that's being delivered on the ship that I will eventually incorporate potentially into the book that I make, the photography book or books that I make from this trip. That's where these notes come from. But look at these pages, pretty freaking simple, lots of writing. This is what I'm on the hook to produce for Blurb. Mobile phone, 916, 16.9, Insta, mirrorless, blah, blah, blah. Data, color-coded, where we were each day on the trip. That's how I'm using these books, right? Approach to the Antarctic Peninsula. That was copied off of a map in the chart room of the ship. things that I would do differently, things that I would add into this trip if I were to go back. A couple of boarding passes. And then at the end of it is just a black and white essay from the short lens work. And it's just a little snapshot of some of the images that I made on the trip that sort of adds to the end of the book. And then I'll probably print a few more things like that before I finish this book, which will be finished over the next couple of weeks. Finally, I showed you this earlier. I said I was going to cut this out and add it to the book. I actually added it to the cover, and I just taped it on. Put a little AG23 stamp on there. That's the letter that Chris sent. These are the notes from the book that I'm reading right now. And every morning when I get up early and I read, I will make notes in the book from here. Nothing fancy. And here's the coyote, the cropped coyote picture that I haven't yet worked over. But I don't know. Maybe I'll just like outline this little guy. He's like, there you go. Why not? You can do anything. It doesn't matter, because unless you had asked me all these questions about my journal, you would have never seen my journal. So, and then I've got the uncropped version here. Again, you can see the sort of deficiency of that printer. This is actually still quite sharp. Like, its head is very, very sharp, but the rest of the image just completely falls away. And by the way, look at my hands. It's just covered with this ink that comes off. I don't really care. So when I get like fingerprints around the extra of the page, it doesn't really matter. The other cool thing is that these papers take ink very well. And so you can do anything, acrylic, oil, whatever. It works pretty well. This is another image, a portrait I made of a woman that was also in Antarctica, and her glasses with all the water spots. I just really loved that. This is a Gentoo penguin colony on an island. This is an Antarctic tern. That was took me forever to get that shot. And these are orcas on the second day of the trip. Again, all these will be worked over. I might do that with acrylic. I might do that with pen, ink, paper, whatever. But I'm also using these to take notes. So again, for me, if I had to classify what I do the most, it's just write. It's just write. Stream of consciousness, ideas, to-do lists, blurb stuff, that all goes in first. And then the rest of it, if I have time to sort of accessorize these journals, I do. But again, someone asked earlier about the piece that I mentioned. That was the piece I wrote on my blog that got syndicated. And if I had written something like that before, and that's funny because the editor asked me the same thing. When the first newspaper reached out and said, hey, a journalist of ours read your piece and we're interested in that. Have you ever written anything like this before? My response to her was, I have 300 journals filled with this material in my garage. So for those of you out there who are on the fence about journaling or you're nervous about journaling, just think about that for a second. Just think about the fact that this newspaper reached out and said, hey, we like this article. We want to syndicate this. 300 other papers picked it up. That was something that was personal. It was a story that I didn't write for an audience. It was a story that I wrote for me. And I think ultimately the kernel of advice that comes away from this journal film is think about the power that comes from tapping into what is yours, not what is somebody else's, not something that you've seen, not a trend, not a popularity contest, but just whatever is percolating in your brain, no matter how bizarre or strange it is, it's valuable. And it might take a year to find it, it might take 5 years to find it, or if you're lucky, you could find it tomorrow. But you have to start searching for it. That's the key.